Welcome to Okayama, the penultimate weekend of Japan Cup for 2025. And race 2 is shortly underway under wonderful, consistent skies here in the southern part of Japan. The conditions have been absolutely splendid all weekend long, perhaps maybe a little bit too hot for some people. Certainly in the fans are out in force. We started our year in Sportsland Sugo. Fuji International was the second round of the championship, with Suzuka following in a couple of weeks' time as a support race to the 1,000 kilometers, and that is where we will crown the majority of our champions. Let's now take a look around this Okayama circuit with GT World Challenge driver Dorian Boccolacci.
Hi everyone, it's Dorian Boccolacci. Get on board with me on my car on the Okayama circuit. It was my first race last year in GT World Challenge Asia. Here we're on the straight, big braking for the turn 1. We get a big oversteer at the entry, a lot of time in this corner, so it's very sensitive corner. Then we arrive to turn 2, not really easy. We don't see clearly the exit, and we need to be very close to the gravels in exit. Then we have a little straight, not really straight. We can see some traffic here, big braking, and here we need to go uphill, and we have a really long straight, so it's really important to get a good exit there. Then we are on the straight, like go-kart, we can put the head in front, we take some speed, and here we have the biggest braking of the track. Nice hairpin, we need to stay a bit tight because then we have a left corner, we need to open it, cut a little bit here. Don't do track limit out of turn 8, and then again turn 9, a little left corner, little straight. Okay, we arrived to the last sector, very good with the Porsche. We get a good rotation here, first hairpin, then we need to prepare the second hairpin, so don't go fully wide in the exit. And we arrive in turn 12 and turn 13, last corner. Turn 12, it's very difficult because we have the gravel and we need to carry a lot of spin in, and then we arrive directly to last corner. And what is important is really to get a good exit for the straight line.
The Rabbit is on the grid once again. We spoke to that Rabbit yesterday, got a little bit more information. Is it a cat? Sorry, it's a cat. One eats and the other one catches and the other one... Anyway, it has a name, that cat, called Okchan. It also has its own Twitter account, would you believe? Quite a famous cat. Let's have a look at what happened in Japan Cup yesterday. A safety car start yesterday in the Japan Cup after a non-start for the 45 from the front row of the grid, and therefore the cars single file into turn 1 and absolutely no jeopardy. 7-7 Racing leading up garage, and it took a while for the race to start spicing up, but not before a first full course yellow for Mr. Maezawa, who had spun into the wall. On board, it sounded like a mechanical failure that sent him into the wall, but huge amount of damage to that car, remarkably. And that caused our full course yellow, and at the same time, pit stops during that full course yellow sequence. So the gap stayed the same as they came in and went out, and not too much of a rush for any of our teams and drivers. Kobayashi jumping aboard the 18. 45 was out on circuit. They got that car back running again. Taking over the 666 was Taichi Watarari. But coming from the tail of the field, the number 9 car of Ukyo Sasahara, slithering his way up the inside of the up garage ACR car. A drive-through penalty for SAR 666. It started to absolutely unravel their race. And unfortunately, they will have some work to do to improve on their 6th position yesterday. At the head of the field, there was no catching Ukyo Sasahara, but a bit of a comeback drive from the 296 unfortunately ended in this collision. Motojima being turned around in the Max Racing Mercedes, and it meant a drive-through penalty for Kawabata. Considering they came here as our championship leaders, it meant Ukyo Sasahara and Shinji Takai would take the victory. They have the pole position today, and they move up to within 1 point of Kawabata and Suzuki in the Cornez Racing Ferrari. Victory for number 9, their 2nd of the year, perhaps a 3rd today. Perhaps not the most thrilling of races yesterday, partly thanks to the safety car start, no doubt, but also because the 45 car was unable to play and it took out one of our decent challengers. Here is the championship standings then, just a single point between Cornez and Bingo Racing with LM Corsa. Banksy just 10 points back though in the 7.7 Porsche, and those are the 3 really for the title. 75 points still on offer, so obviously a lot of people still within contention. In fact, every single one on that list there. And a good result from Yamawaki and Takagi yesterday brought the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari back into the mix, even if they are still behind their teammates, the Lexus. We're waiting for a good result from Ponos Racing and the 45 as well. There is Mr. Miyazawa with his accident yesterday. They had to replace the chassis on that 555 car. So it's a brand new car, and unfortunately that does mean they have a 2-minute stop-go penalty. That's over a lap down, they will drop. And we say once again, a big welcome to the local high skill, who are our entertainment on the grid for today. Lots of energy down on the grid. We had these guys performing for the GT World Challenge. And there's huge smiles down there. Always great to get the local culture involved, but moreover, when it is the local high school, even better. This type of music, the wadaiku, the drumming. And this is the Gak Kujikan High School Wadaiku Club from Okayama. They've had to drive into the mountains, so it's a good 45 minutes away from Okayama. They're also planning some overseas performances, thanks to the very unique drum that the Japanese people use for these performances. I don't know how she can drum and wave at the same time. She's clearly multi-talented. And Upchan is enjoying that one as well. Look down there. He photo-bombed one of our interviews yesterday. There is a few things that are very unique to GT World Challenge Asia and racing in Japan, and having a full-size or oversized cat is certainly one of them. Let's go down to Amy. We welcome her back to the GT World Challenge grid as our pit reporter. Who's she got?
さあ、ジャパンカップレース2の舞台ですね。こちらグリッドに来てまいりましたけれども、アマクラスのなんとチャンピオンが今日決まるかもしれないというレースになってます。横の車と後ろの車より前に終わればチャンピオン獲得になるんですけれども、ご自身どうですか、自信のほどは？
はい、もちろんチーム全員それを目指してきてるし、この1年間ね目指してきたし、組み立ててきたし、僕ら2人も努力してきたし、で去年完走という形でビリでチャンピオン確定したんですけど、今回は優勝してチャンピオンを取りたいと、もう優勝以外は考えてないぐらいの勢いで守りに入らず攻めていこうということで、先ほどもみんなで気合い入れたところなので、はい、頑張ってまた3度目の自身3度目のシリーズチャンピオン取りたいと思います。
じゃあぜひねカーナンバー1を死守していきたいですね。
はい、したいですね。
頑張ってください。
お願いします。応援をよろしく。
So a translation to our international fans, the reason why he is very excited about this race is because if he finishes in front of the car next to him and behind him, he will be crowned champion. He's very much looking forward to that, and he wants to achieve this 3 years in a row. Also, he wants to keep the number 1 on his car, obviously. Also, he said he will not play it safe. He will go for the win today, so it will be very hot on track. So that's what he said. Back to you.
Interesting that usually we see Uematsu on the podium. Don't generally see them pre-race, and there's a massive smile on his face when he's on the podium alongside his teammate Suzuki. But on the grid today, looked a little less smiley, a little bit more nervous perhaps. I would be if I was wearing those shorts. Moment, obviously in his civvies, keeping as cool as you can in 33 degrees. It is warm out there today. And for our gentlemen drivers in these GT cars, there is air conditioning, but as we heard from the team Gojigen, they had problems with their air conditioning yesterday, so they had to run without. So you've got air temperature of 33, and then of course the engine temperature as well in the car. That would have been quite hot. Team Up Garage with ACR, good result yesterday. Takashi Kobayashi and Akita, they are now 6th in the championship. That was their best result yesterday, but second time on that podium. The drums continue to echo around this Okayama circuit. We are in the hills here, right in the centre of the South Island. And because of the hills, you would assume that we have elevation. And the walk up our stairs onto the 4th floor of the main building here feels like we're in Mexico City at 2,000 meters. But we're not. We are barely at sea level. But the mountain roads that we take to get here would suggest not. I would imagine that you could either join a sports group at school, but joining this group would be as much a sport, because you're going to use those arm muscles pretty heavily for the drums. Performers are very well trained at turning to camera, aren't they? Let's go down to Maezawa Racing, who, as I said, has replaced that chassis on that car. Huge work for the team overnight.
さあ、再びですねグリッドからお届けいたします。前澤選手、まあ昨日はちょっとね不運があったっていうところで、お体まず大丈夫ですか？
全然大丈夫です。はい。
まずその結構なねG フォースかかったと思うんですけど、実際何が起きたかっていうのが多分ファンの方々知りたいと思うんです。
まあ出口でアクセル踏んだらすごいいつも以上に滑って、なんかスリップコもついてなかったんで、もしかしたらなんかオイルとかがあったのかなっていう風にちょっとオフィシャル映像何度も見て研究してるんですけど、未だ原因不明。
まあでも今日はね気持ち切り替えていいレース期待できますか？
はい、ちょっとストップ&ゴーペナルティーが2分間という厳しい条件ですけど、しっかり完走していいところ行きたいと思います。はい、
ぜひ最終戦に向けてもね気持ちよく終わりたいかと思いますので頑張ってください。
頑張ります。ありがとう。
to all our international fans. So what happened yesterday was he did slide with his tail a little bit. Does not really know himself what happened, so they are still investigating about yesterday's incident. However, of course, they're looking forward to a great race today. They do have a 2-minute stop penalty, that what he also mentioned, but looking forward to the last race in Suzuka. He wants to end this race happily, so yeah, he's very, very excited about this afternoon. Back to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, with that 2-minute penalty, they will drop a lap down. So in terms of a competition, they've got a little bit of nothing to fight for, really. But it was an interesting crash, and I still think that the drive shaft failed. I don't think it was Mr. Maezawa's fault. But unfortunately, hard into a uncovered barrier. And that is what caused the damage to chassis change. 3.7 kilometers in length, the circuit, 13 turns, and as you can see, many of the turns named by ex-Formula One drivers that were here for its launch. So Sterling Moss, for instance, bit of a non-corner, his corner, I'm afraid, because it's a bit flat out. But you've got Atwood, David Piper, Redman, Hobbs, Mike Knight. I don't know who Mike Knight is. Not sure Mike Knight was a racing driver. But first corner and last corner, imaginative names. And a real fiddly little circuit. Reminds me of a go-kart track, but it's actually, you know, full size for these GT3 cars. And even speaking to the international drivers down in the paddock, absolutely love it. Upchan is now on its knees. It's had far too much fun down on there on the grid. It seems to be visiting all the different cars. I'm not entirely sure which car Upchan is supposed to be supporting, but it's out and about. Let's now head back down to the grid with Ponos Racing, who had a really difficult yesterday.
さあ、再びグリッドからお届けしますけど、フロントローですね、ケイコツリーの選手、熱いスタートを期待したいと思いますので、ぜひね、そこの意気込みを伺いたいと思います。ケイ選手、フロントスタートということで、周りはもうご自身も含めてスーパー GT や、スーパーフォーミュラーのね、ドライバーに囲まれて、熱い戦い、スタートを期待できますでしょうか。
まあそうですね、いつも通りのメンバーって感じでレースしてるんで、とりあえずいいスタートを決めて、トップで辻子選手に変われたらと考えてます。
ありがとうございます。それではね、熱いスタート期待しているんで頑張ってください。So this was Kei Kotsulino starting from P2. He is very excited about the start, being surrounded by very top drivers such as Super Formula drivers and Super GT drivers. And yeah, he said he will try his best. Back to you.
Yeah, so didn't get off the line yesterday with a technical problem with the connection between the car and the garage. All these Ferraris actually are connected to Maranello in Italy. Whenever a GT3 customer car races, it is connected and monitored back at base, and that connection was not established, and therefore they couldn't fire up the car. Basically, Ferrari say you can't fire up the car unless we're watching. And so that's why they didn't start the race. Once they got into the pits, they were able to get that car connected and back out onto track. But the car had been wheeled into the garage. And when you wheel a car into the garage, that means you are out of the race. You're retiring the car. And therefore, on a very little technicality, when they went back out onto circuit, they were asked to return to the pits. So very, very unfortunate sequence of events that led them to not finish race one, especially with a good qualifying session from the gentleman driver Yorikatsu Sujiko, and obviously for this race, second position on the grid, Cozzolino hopefully will not have the same problem, and they just don't have those points on the board in the championship, down in 8th spot.
さあ、こちらもですね、大注目のドライバー福住二玲選手なんですけれども、スーパー GT だったりね、スーパーフォーミュラで大活躍されてますが、このやっぱ、ジャパンカップっていうのは雰囲気違いますか、国内レースとは。
そうですね、すごくなんか、真剣にやってるんですけども、楽しめる 一つのカテゴリーだと思うので、その中アマチュアさんといろいろ喋りながら、僕は僕でそのアドバイスの仕方を学ぶこともできますし、すごく楽しいシリーズだと思います。
そしてですね、RSO イベントの中ではこのレクサス RCF っていうのが本当珍しいというか唯一かもしれないんですけど、どんな車かぜひ教えてください。
そうですね、もうかなり GT3 の中では古い車両ではあると思うんですけども、その中でもこの順位で最新のフェラーリとちょっと争えてるってところはやっぱすごく開発が頑張ってくれたおかげかなと思ってますし、まだちょっと今年は全体的にどのカテゴリーでも苦しいレースが続いてるんですけども、今回ちょっといいところ見せれればなと思ってます。
では熱き戦い期待してます。ぜひ楽しんでレースしてください。
はい、頑張ります。
So to our international fans, this is a rather older model of RCF as a GT3 car. So he's very proud to be able to be fighting against the newest Ferraris alongside him. That's what he said about the car. So it shows potential very much. Also about the championship, he is very, very excited to be part of this championship because it is kind of festive, but it is also very professional. So he has been enjoying this weekend very, very much. Back to you.
Yeah, I don't think there are very many Lexuses still racing globally in GT3. They, as he says, one of the older cars. I'm just trying to see what homologation number it is, because there are 58 homologated GT3 cars. Every GT3 car has to be approved by the SRO group. And you do have to go back a long way to find the Lexus homologation details. Let's go back down to Amy, who's got our pole mine.
さあ、こちらポールシッターですね、笹原選手。ポールからのスタートはもう毎回多分特別だと思うんですけど、どんなスタートを切りたいですか？
はい、まずクリーンに、スタートして1周目トップで帰ってこれればいいなっていうのと、レースとしては15秒ペナルティ一度優勝した分であるので、どうなるか分かんないですけど、とにかくチームみんなでミスなく力を出し切りたいです。
では頑張ってください。楽しんでください。
はい、
would like to have a very clean start. He will try his best to come back P1 as well and give the car back to Takei in the front. So he's very much looking forward to this race, and he will like to enjoy it as well. Back to you.
Homologation number 46, the Lexus. Back in 2017 was the first time it was homologated. Now, Oyagi, fighting for the AM Championship, will start from pit lane, and that's a real disaster because Sun is pretty rapid in that car. We saw them right at the sharp end in Fuji. Father less so, and Father didn't race in Fuji, but is back with him this weekend, and so a bit of a problem there for the 81. That Nissan, talking of old cars, that's homologation number 48, the second generation GTR, which means that it is only 1 year older than the Lexus. But yes, completely correct. The Ferrari 296, which a majority of this grid is made up of, was homologated in 2023. So, and very much a race car. The early days of GT3, you built the cars are really around the road going car, but Porsche and Ferrari that are really the sharp end of this field. They are pure built race cars now, not road cars at all. The Porsche generation G generation 992 from 2022. No GT3 cars homologated at the start of this year, but we are expecting an Evo of the Ferrari that was launched in Spa at the 24 hours. I think there is also an Evo coming of the Lamborghini, if I'm not wrong. See, recently we had an Aston Martin. I haven't had a McLaren for a while. It's back in 2019. And that's why it's so cool to have two Nissans in the field here, as well as the Lexus. They are of the older generation. There's actually a 488 in the grid. That's the oldest car in our field, because that's from 2016 homologation spec. We're going to go through them, might as well. The last Mercedes is even older. That's also 2016 GT3 car number 42. Here is the grid then of Japan Cup Race 2. We've got GT4 cars at the tail of the field, 3 of them, with Toyota Racing Indonesia on the pole position. Bingo Racing with Tiger Woo and Tiger Woo in GTC. As we spoke about, Uematsu on the pole for GT3 AM, and our pole car is Ukyo Sasahara and Shinji Takai in the Pro-Am category. Bingo Racing with LM Corsa. But it was so tight in qualifying. Cozzolino alongside Sasahara with Yokomizo barely 2/10 back, and Fukuzumi in the Lexus, also a very, very talented driver. Those 4 are going to put on a show for us today. Row 3, Kawabata and Watawari, 2 young chargers, wanting to show their worth against some of the elder statesmen of Japanese GT racing. Kobayashi and Motojima, 7th and 8th spot, and Takagi back down in 9th position, with Taku Bamba joining us in this championship and getting to grips with everything. Suzuki will start the Team Machina AM pole car. Tiger Woo qualifying alongside Tanaka in the 360 run-up AM machine. Nonaka and Toyoda. And then the final row, Fujiwara and Yoshida in the 2 Porsche Cayman GT4 cars, with the Oyagi Team Daishan with GT-Net Nissan starting from the pit lane. There is Daishan. If Amy can find out why that car is at the tail of the field, it now gets released, so it can join the back of the field, so it doesn't have as much of a disadvantage as if it was starting there. Because if we had the normal situation where the race starts after 1 lap, that car would be cold and trying to catch up a field of cars that had done 1 lap, whereas because we start racing after 2 laps, that 81 car can be warmed up as much as the rest of the field and will sit at the back of the field, so we'll quickly be able to get on the tail of its rivals. So it's actually not a massive disadvantage, or certainly not as much of a disadvantage than if we were going racing normally. Second formation lap, which means the clock has begun. We are going to write this into the rule book for next year. At the moment, it's sort of a workaround. Race direction wanting the 2 formation laps, but the timetable needing to stay as is, so the second formation lap becomes part of the race, because the regulation doesn't allow you to have 2 formation laps, if that makes any sense. So you're not allowed 2 formation laps, so the second formation lap becomes a racing safety car lap, but we still have a formation start. Didn't yesterday, remember? We had to go safety car and we had a single file restart. Sasahara versus Cozzolino on the front row of the grid. We could be watching a Super GT race, couldn't we? Quality in this Japan Cup to the extreme. Fukuzumi also in the Lexus, racing in Super Formula. And here we go, nicely formed, heading towards the start line, which is a long way down the start-finish straight here in Okayama. Now the lights turn off and we go racing, and Cozzolino aggressively chops off Sasahara and takes the lead of the race into turn 1. He needs a result today. 8th position only in the championship with just 2 second positions. And Fukuzumi in the Lexus has got himself up into third position. Yokomiso knows he's got that 2-minute penalty, so isn't really fighting these guys. Watarara looking to try and get past the white Ferrari. Brand new chassis for today. Team Up Garage going alongside Max Racing. Kobayashi versus Motojima. Side by side for what is 6th position. The first 3 are good. A little bit of a defense from Fukuzumi, but decides doesn't really need to. Good attack there from Watarari in the Porsche. After that drive-through penalty for the 6-6. 6th position only. Should have won yesterday, really. Likes to flag. Progress being made by the Noric Racing Ferrari. 181. Takubamba didn't qualify particularly well, so there's work to do here. They all seem to be rather crawling all over the back of Kobayashi on this third lap. That Up Garage Ferrari not working particularly well. Very nice and clean start. This is lap 1. Over the line, Cozzolino, Sasahara with a little gap over Fukuzumi. Yokomizo crawling all over the back of him, but we know that that Ferrari has a 2-minute penalty for a chassis change for Maezawa Racing. So Watarari will be released. And it is allowing Takagi, actually, after a pretty poor qualifying, to start making progress. Our champions from last year have really been rather quiet this year. Managed to get themselves a 3rd position yesterday. That still means only 9th in the championship coming here. And further back now, being challenged by 296. It's not been a very good start at all, has it, by Kawabata, and he can't find a way through on Takagi for the moment. Takagi, Kawabata and Bamba. Quality field here for Japan Cup. There is Takubamba. Born in Tokyo, but from the South Island, the south of the South Island here in Japan. And here we go, Yokomiso coming into the pits at the back, a shot there, releasing those cars. This is 2-minute stop-go penalty, so he's going to lose a full lap, and that is for a chassis change to allow Maezawa Racing to continue. Amazing that that shunt was created that much damage, but there must have been a shock right through the chassis. There is they do have 2 bars coming out the front, in front of the drivers for front-end protection, and usually those crumple before affecting the chassis. But unfortunately, in the case of Maezawa Racing, they did a lot more damage. So look at how beautiful that car looks. Credit to Maezawa Racing. They worked big last night to replace the chassis, get a new engine, same engine of course, but moving chassis, and the car looks as it did yesterday. Quick look down the inside for Oyagi. Uichiro, the son, at the moment on the flashers. Got the capability of getting past Suzuki, we would have expected, and this would be for the lead in AM. But it wouldn't be enough to take the AM title to Suzuka, because the #1 and Suzuki already have many points. Oh, there's 555 still in pit lane. 2 minutes feels so long when there's a race going on outside your window. He'll be getting a countdown from his team in his ear. And also, the other thing is, a 2-minute stop-go penalty against pro drivers is even more damaging than if it would be against AM drivers. And no, I think the point is they definitely cannot make it up. But they will be, if there is a safety car, they would at least be on the tail of the field to play with them. But then they would have to go through the whole field and then unlap themselves to get back into the party. So they will be at least a lap down. And up we go, back into the race, Yokomiso. Now, qualifying laps for the man. Let's see, he's got a clear track around him, no one to play with, so at least he can do some starring performances, perhaps. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Cozzolino leads. So frustrated with the situation yesterday, so many things going against Ponos Racing, and it just seems to be the story of their year. Retired out of race 2 in Sugo, retired out of race 1 in Fuji. They were so annoyed about that. And then effectively disqualified from the first race yesterday, but actually the results state that they finished 17th. Whether that's a crumb of comfort or not. But in the other races, they've got 2 second positions, so do feel as though there is potential again today, and then they just got to hope that Suzuka goes really, really well for them. Ruichio Oyagi crawling all over the back of Suzuki, trying to find a way through, and that's a late move down into the hairpin. There's a little bit of contact between the two of them, the lightest of touches. There's still no way through. The battle for AM continues. It would never be something that would even cross the minds of any of these Japanese drivers. Oh, Oyagi, no rally crossing. Not in a Nissan GTR. That could have ended up very nasty. The only way that Oyagi can realistically win the championship is if the #1 retires out of the race. Oh, he's a bit loose though, isn't he? He's a bit ragged. He was so good in Fuji, he was so strong, real entertainment, but needs to settle himself down. One of the things that happens with these Pirelli tyres is you go over the limit of adhesion, start sliding them, they instantly overheat. So he looks down the inside, and as he jinks back, he just puts 2 wheels on the grass. Don't worry, that's what Lance Stroll did in qualifying yesterday in Formula 1. Even the best. Easy to do with a big Nissan, though, there's no doubt about that. Back to the lead of the race, Cozzolino, Sasahara. Our qualifying session was red flagged with 3.5 minutes remaining. Sasahara hadn't set a lap time before the red flag was then went back out on circuit and was able to grab pole position, but you knew that Cozzolino was going to be aggressive at the start, and yeah, he was. Instantly chopping over the nose of Sasahara, claiming the lead. And now they're pretty much equal to each other, aren't they? About a second separating the two. 3.5 ahead of Fukuzumi in that Lexus. Now, the other question mark is the progress of the 296. That's our championship leader, 296. And at the moment, there are really nowhere Cornets Racing, and they're racing against Bingo Racing for that title. There's 1 point separating the two of them. And of course, at the moment, as we can see, Ukyo Sasahara is in the lead. Let's do a lap then with Sasahara around this Okayama circuit. As you go on board, you get a chance to really see how kind of go-kart-like it is. It wraps around itself quite a few times. And it also is very, very tight at points. Coming around the final couple of turns. Mike Knight's corner into the last turn. Nice and neat for Sasahara for the moment. You can see how little panic, little movement in the steering wheel. Waits for the braking point into turn one. It's quite fast turn one, and that was nicer from Sasahara than Cozzolino, who just slightly missed the apex. Off camber turn three, as you turn left there at Williams. It's a long left-hander and it's off camber, so the car is naturally wanting to slide to the outside. So you almost need to set up a little bit early there to make sure you manage to get the turn. That's a really good shot to show the camber of the corner and to show those that miss the apex as well. 2.3 miles in length. So that makes 3.7 kilometers. And still, Oyagi trying to find a way past Suzuki. Now, it would be a good thing to do because he knows that his dad is a little bit slower. We also know that Umatsu is a lot faster than Suzuki. Is there a space down the inside here? Side by side they go through turn 6 and 7. Yes, there is an overlap, and yes, it's now done. And Oyagi is very polite with the space on the outside of Piper. Into Redmond now, and claims the position. So tight around here. Now, what can Oyagi do to get away now that he's been released? Here's that move through 6. Both of them twitching under acceleration, and then out through 7 and gets it done. We'll keep an eye on that Nissan's lap times. He was on the last lap a 31.9, whereas Cozzolino and Sasahara doing 29.4. 31.9 plays 29.4. Fukuzumi at 29.6 on the last lap, and Watarare, Kobayashi 29.5. The top 5 almost lapping in exactly the same lap times, hence why there's not a lot of battling going on. Good news. Fastest lap for Yokomizo. 28.8. Wow, that is a chunk faster even than Cozzolino and Sasahara. Cozzolino's fastest lap at 29.0. That was his best in the early part of the race, but nice to see the 555 car out on circuit, even if competition-wise there's not much possibility. 15 minutes of this first part of the race gone. About half of the first stint. Therefore, still plenty of time for the pros to make a mission, and Kei Cozzolino goes off the circuit. Perfect choice of camera. He's now going to have to defend, but he's going to have dirt on his tyres. There's a kiss between the two wing mirrors, and for once, Kei Cozzolino has only got himself to blame there. How very strange. Even more frustration in that 45 car than there might have been at the start of the race. Deep and late on the brakes, and there's a little bit of contact between the two. Almost touring car racing between these two Ferrari 296s. And you know that the red mist is going to be descending across the visor of Kei Cozzolino. Cannot believe we just witnessed that. Surely now Sasahara, who is quite happy by the looks of things to stay in second position. There was no overdriving going on when we jumped on board. Trying to save tyres presumably as well. Bearing in mind we've got a hot day. They are driving in the heat of the day today. Circuit is 55 degrees. It was 45 degrees for their race 1, so big temperature difference, 10 degrees difference. And let's have a look again then, from the onboard camera. Going down the main straight. watching the car ahead. Into turn 1. A little bit later on turn in. Yeah, he's missed the apex there. Okay, so he has got a bit of understeer then. Comes into the next turn, turns in. He's missed the apex there, and he just runs wide. And as soon as you're in the gravel sucks you in. So, just offline, basically, by the looks of things. And then there was the move, and Cozzolino tried to defend it, but come on. You're already covered your tyres in gravel, and so you're not going to have the grip anyway. So at some point, you've just got to accept that it's not going to happen for you. Sasahara now, getting away. Gap growing. Last lap costs Cozzolino 2 seconds, and now Sasahara back into the 29s, the 29.4. Well, that looks nice. I wonder if can we have a commentator one of those, please? Nice pack on the head and a massage, getting himself ready to jump in the number 9 Bingo Racing LM Corsa. I can imagine that would work really nicely in the commentary box. Now, next challenge for our GT3 teams is our GT4 traffic. 3 cars in GT4, big gaps between the 3 of them. And in fact, there's already been lappery happened, because there is the 3rd of the GT4 cars just going through shot. We welcome Murakami Motors to the championship for this weekend. Now already our leader has got past the Zengo RS Garage Sunrise Boulevard car. Front 2 are already through. What we did see when we had Japan Cup as part of GT World Challenge, we did see that the GT4 cars would sort of end up stuck together, and that would then mean that it was very hard for them to overtake when the lappery came in. 2.4 seconds separates car 81 Oyagi in the lead of AM, ahead of Suzuki in 2nd position. But even that would not be enough to keep the championship. Oh no, sorry, I tell a lie. That would keep the championship alive in the AM category, because the gap would be 47 seconds as the 39 leading GT4 gets out of the way. And there is our GTC leader, Tiger Wu. GTC champion, in fact, Tiger Wu. So yeah, Uematsu and Suzuki, if it stays like this, because they are behind Oyagi and Nissan, mathematically, Ruichiro Oyagi would have the opportunity to still win in Suzuka in 2 weeks' time. On board with the Nissan, with the Toyota, sorry, Toyota Gazoo Racing. And it's always interesting to ride on board with a GT4 car, because it just shows how different they are. GT4 cars are still based around the chassis of the road car, with a roll cage fitted into the car, into that road car chassis. Whereas a GT3 car these days is a bespoke machine. And so they drive completely differently. Way less power, but also way less aerodynamic help. So the mechanical grip is needed. The car rolls a lot more, especially these Supras that are quite high off the ground thanks to the BOP. It's actually, I think if we park that 39 alongside our safety car, which is the road-going version of the Toyota Supra GR, I wonder what the ride heights would look like. I think the GT4 car would be higher. Team Up Garage, next to get past our GT4 leader. That's Kobayashi in 5th position. He is 2.3 seconds back from Watarabe and 2.7 ahead of Motojima. So closest battle on track is Kawabata chasing down Takagi, just 0.7 of a second between those two. There it is. And I don't know, I think I would expect more from both cars, to be honest. Takagi 7th, Kawabata 8th. Don't forget, Kawabata won race race 2, sorry, in Fuji, and has been on the podium all year, apart from yesterday in Okayama. 2/3 in Sugo, a 2nd in Fuji, a win, and that's why they are leading the championship. But yeah, 15 seconds back. Now, before we get into pit stops, which are only a minute away, let's not forget that there is the success penalty in Japan Cup, where the top 3 from yesterday have a success penalty, and therefore Sasahara in the number 9 will have to stop an extra 15 seconds over its rivals. So that would put the 45 happily back into the lead of the race. Team Up Garage with ACR, the 18, they have 10 seconds extra in the pits. And K-Tunes in the 98, they have 5 seconds on the pits. That's a good little fact. The only non-Japanese driver on track right now is Tiger Wu. That's the championship standings as it stands, but we know it's going to very much change moving into the second half of this race. We actually don't have that many non-Japanese drivers in the field generally, but Tiger Wu is the only one. Also, there is that success penalty applied in the GT4 category. So Nonaka in the 39 Toyota has 15 seconds. Fujiwara yesterday, the 82 finished in 3rd position. So they have 5 seconds. There's a 10-second difference between our 1st and 2nd cars at this moment. Sorry, for the pits, and there's only 7 seconds difference between the two. So it would put Fujiwara and the 82 car into the lead of GT4. Pit window is now open, so anybody that wants to can come into the pits, but anybody who has a pro driver in the car will want to keep that pro driver, or even a silver driver, until the end of the window. So it's only going to be a couple of the cars further back that we're going to see in the pits for the moment. Sasahara leads, 3.6 seconds is the gap now. It has grown, but they have the success penalty. So it will be the 45 that will take over the lead of the race after the pit stops. So it doesn't matter so much that Cozzolino decided to go grass tracking with his Ferrari. car 67 in the field. Today, 18 cars in total, which meant something like 48 GT3 cars here in Okayama. And considering how small this paddock is, that is quite remarkable. It really is a cute little circuit, is how I would describe it. It's very hard to imagine that Formula One cars came and raced here in 1994 and 95. World Touring cars also came and raced here. There's the team run-up 360. In the second of our GTRs. Cool to see that we've got Nissan GTRs still running. Funny to see, actually, last weekend in the UK, there was a classic race for GT3 cars, and there was Nissan GTRs in that. But the second generation Nissan GTR is still homologated to run up until 2030, and in Japan, there is still a customer racing program that supports the car, and they are at every GT World Challenge event across the world. But it is true, I don't think I've seen the GTR in any other GT World Challenge events across the world. Much like we said about the Lexus earlier on. Here's Maezawa Racing. Unfortunately, it's just a day to enjoy driving your Ferrari 296 around the circuit, because they are that one lap down on the rest of the field after having a 2-minute penalty for changing the chassis on that car at the start of the race. And so, nothing that can be done results-wise between the two. Cozzolino on the flashers, trying to make sure that Otta in the car guy 66 Ferrari knows he's coming, and to get out of the way. Still got a couple of laps before we will get the pro drivers out of the cars. Probably can do another 2, can't they, before we then put the AMs in. But Suzuki jumping out of the #1 team Machina. Used to be McLaren. The team called Machina because it was they raced McLarens, but now race a Ferrari. Don't really know why they chose to switch from McLaren 720S to the Ferrari, and why so many Ferraris feature in this field. We've got 12 Porsches in GT World Challenge, and the majority of the field have chosen Ferraris here, but in other parts of the world you'll barely see a Ferrari. For instance, the British Championship, there's 1 Ferrari and 1 Porsche. Into the pits comes the K-Tunes Racing Lexus. Now, that's quite an early pit stop for Fukuzumi. The pit lane is small, so you can trip over each other when there is lots of cars in the pits, but it shouldn't happen like that. And Fukuzumi will hand over to Suenaga in a good position. And Sasahara and Cozzolino continue to talk. I was so excited to have a great battle between Sasahara, Cozzolino, Fukuzumi and Yokomizo. And the 2-minute penalty removed Yokomizo out of that fight. And Cozzolino went grass tracking, so he removed himself out of the fight. So Uke Sasahara, therefore, as you would expect, leading comfortably. But it will change once we get the second drivers into the cars. Two minutes remaining on the clock before pits shut. So that's the first of the cars that has pitted, but really because we're putting the AMs into the cars, you can't really do an undercut. Any car that's pitted, that's why they wait until the very last minute, because any car that has to do one extra lap versus with an AM versus a pro, they will be at a disadvantage. In comes Oyagi, son to hand over to dad. Kawabata handing over to his teammate in the 296, which is Suzuki. Very strong AM actually, is Suzuki. And Sasahara continues to lead. 5 seconds now the gap, but it still puts the 9 car behind the 45 post pit stop. Has to come into the pits now with less than a minute remaining, so we are now going to have all of the other 7 cars into the pits. Third position for the moment, Watarabe in that Devil Porsche, the 666. It's not a devil, it's an angel. I don't know quite how we got the translation wrong yesterday, but 666 being the number of an angel, not a devil. And that is why it's 666, even if the team is called 77. Yes, I will go on like that until we change to number 77. Tyres, driver, car's fueled for the end of the race, so that little thing that's attached to the car when they come into the pits, that primes the hydraulics, which pushes the 2 poles or 4 poles from the bottom of the car onto the ground, and that's what effectively jacks the car up, and then they can release that pressure and the poles disappear back into the car. Won't be a battle, might be a battle between the 9. There we go, the pressure released by just a little loop like that. Could be a battle here between the 9 and the Lexus in terms of who comes out first, because the Lexus pitted earlier with its AM driver earlier. So 45 is going to have a monumental lead, and I think 666 is going to be second position. Yes, it is, out of the 3rd position for the number 9, and then it's going to be 4th for the Lexus 96, and actually right on the tail of the Lexus 96 is is Yamawaka. So this is the battle between Takai Suniega, and I'm just trying to work out, that Ferrari is 1 lap back, it must be. That's the car guy Ferrari, 66. And why am I not seeing that on my timing screens unless I'm being blind? Must be 1 lap back. Oh yes, there we go. He's 1 lap back. Sorry, getting myself confused here on my own. So ignore the 66 in this 2-car battle. They are not involved. So Suzuki is our leader. Let's check out the new names in the cars post-pit stop. Sujiko, sorry, leads from Banksy in 2nd position, so ignore that 360 Nissan. Banksy is 2nd in the Porsche. Could this be redemption from yesterday? Can he get back to the tail of the Ferrari and take victory after having a drive-through penalty yesterday? Then in 3rd position is Takei in the car he's taken over from Sasahara, and he has Tsunega right behind him for 3rd position. Then there's a gap to Uchida in the Max Racing Mercedes that we haven't really seen at all so far. Then there's a really good battle for 6th position between Yamawaki in the 98, Suzuki in the 296 and Akita in the 18. 3 cars all trying to sort each other out in terms of positioning. And then Shibata in the Noric Racing Ferrari. Would extend Bingo Racing's lead at the head of the championship just a little bit, because at the moment 296, our championship leader, would be dropping to 3rd, so just not having much fun. 3 cars, 3-car battle at the moment for 6th position. Position to Kai. Loads and loads of space around them. We need to keep a look at the lap time. So leader's lap time a 31.2, Banksy with a 31.4, Takai a 32.7, but then Suenega a 33.4. Uchida in the Mercedes on his own, 32.5, and then Yamawaki, Suzuki and Akita all doing 32.4s. There is our Pro-Am leader, and leader of the race by 4.5 seconds. And at the moment, faster than the guys behind him. In fact, fastest car on the circuit in general. Post-pit stop, Manopo in the Toyota Gazoo Racing GT4 car ahead of Makino, so still leading in GT4 despite the success penalties. They are going to investigate pit stops to see if anyone has gone under time, but I don't have that timing screen up to tell you whether they have or haven't, so the news to you will be the news to me. There's Tiger Wu in the GTC car, just getting out of the way of Uematsu, who is back to the head of the lead in GT-AM, and with that would be leading and winning our GT-AM category. That's how much first and second makes a difference. Dario Naki is 10 seconds back from this #1 Ferrari. And there is our battle, as I mentioned earlier, for 6th position. So Suzuki here, championship leader, really needs to clear the K-Tunes Ferrari. A bit of a wiggle there from the 98 in under braking. But for the moment, he's been behind them for a couple of laps and is not going anywhere. Looks to the inside, sort of moving around in the mirrors to try and distract Yamawaki. Don't forget, Yamawaki and Takagi champions last year in Japan Cup. No slouch, but they just don't seem to be having the performance at the moment. Oh, that's not really advisable, is it? Akita onto the grass. 32 degrees air temperature. It's a hot day out there. I think there's a little bit of lack of concentration. Even for me, drivers are losing it, and so am I. Ooh, now drive-through penalty for car 98. Pit stop release. So did not go back into the fast lane, released when he was released from the pits. Gosh. And so that means that he was basically unsafe in its release and will have a drive-through penalty. So that'll take him away and out of the view of Suzuki. And that'll be very, very welcome to Suzuki. There's the Lexus of Suenaga holding on to 4th. Oh, and it's got a stop-go penalty. Oh no! Presumably that is because a slightly short pit stop That is really annoying. One of the best results for the Lexus in a long time. Lots of opportunities to chat about it. Lots of opportunities to speculate about the future of Lexus in GT3. And unfortunately, all the hard work of Fukuzumi in the early part of the race will come to nothing. Not taking it this lap. And it will promote Uchida in the Mercedes there, who's now joined that little party, up into 4th position. I should tell Uchida not to fight too hard. So Yamawaki in the pits to take his drive-through penalty already. There is our leader. 6 seconds is the gap now. Still just a fraction faster than Banksy. And moreover, they are miles faster than the rest of the field. Over a 1.5 seconds difference between Banksy and Takai. With Suinaga soon to be removed out of 4th position. Uchida will move up in his Mercedes. Now, where have they been this year, results-wise? They took a victory in Sugo in race 2, and that was the only time they've been on a podium for Max Racing this year. So moving up to 4th position, that would help them. But there does not seem to be a challenge for car 45, does there? Banksy on this last lap, at least in the what is now known as the Devil's car, is or did set exactly the same lap time as Tsujiko on his last lap. But needs to find 6 seconds. There's the stop-go penalty for car 96. Into the box. 1 second. Oh gosh, didn't need to do that. Oh, and that's far longer than a 1 second penalty. I think he stalled it, didn't he? He came into the pits and didn't put his foot on the clutch because you could hear it instantly cut out. And so that's even more of a penalty than he was expecting. Now, there, it was an unsafe release. Yeah, okay. It wasn't that he was driving down the working lane out of choice. He did have the Mercedes to his outside, and so yeah, it was very much unsafe. Good find from our replay director there. I wondered whether he just simply had left the pits and stayed in the slow lane, but no, he had been unsafe release into another car. Lots of cars on the same part of the circuit here. We've got Uchida in the Mercedes. The car guy, Ferrari, is 1 lap down, so we can ignore that. But this is the progress of Suzuki and Akita. Suzuki 5th, Akita 6th. They're chasing down Uchida in the Mercedes. They were about a second faster than him on the last lap, and now on the flashers. Please get out of the way, that means, because we are coming through and we would like not to be held up by you. But the car guy in 6.6 is not listening to the heed and the wishes of our 5th and 6th position cars, and that is not ideal. because it does mean that the Max Racing Mercedes is disappearing up the road. Now there should be blue flags out on circuit, but I'm not sure. There's normally a marshal post just there, and I'm not sure that there are blue flags showing for that car guy. If we carry on panning, left side, no, didn't quite see the marshal post there, but I thought there should be blue flags. 488, so car guy is the older of the generation Ferraris. You can see mainly by the rear end, and it's getting in the way and being a right pest. Having to go round the outside is not ideal. But Otter is not making life easy at all. Wants to play, even though they're one lap down. Now, Team Up Garage managed to come down the inside of the car guy, and that is done then. So they can start focusing on battling each other. Oh, 98 into the pits. So problem then for K-Tunes with their Ferrari. That's a shame. Interesting chat on the chat about car models, and mentioning that the Yas Motorsport, the Honda Acura, or Acura, which we see racing in GT World Challenge America. Interesting that we don't have one over here, but interestingly, the Acura is built in Italy by Yas Motorsport, the same manufacturer that produced the touring cars for Honda back in the day. They produced the GT3 car. Whoa, what's happened here for the Lexus? It's completely changed colour. It's completely covered in dust. Looks like it's been through a desert. And I'm going to say that it's got a left front puncture as well. I mean, look at the wipers trying to clear the dust. My lord, that's going to be horrible on circuit. And now there goes the rest of the gravel scattered all over the circuit. That would not be very nice down there. It's got to be a puncture. Can we see on the left side? It doesn't look like it, does it? That's still inflated, isn't it? Maybe not. Maybe not. Slow puncture. So Suinaga heading to pit lane. So compounded, and there is. Now, if we go on board through that, it will sound like you're driving through a rally stage. It'll be absolutely horrible. And because basically gravel is round, these are little round pebbles. When you drive on them, you either pick or up all of that gravel on the tyre, and it sticks to the tyre, or you roll over it. You can see how it bounces away. And it is like, if you've ever stood on marbles, number one, it hurts a lot. And number two, it's very slippery. So here come our AM drivers, remember, into this problem area. And it's going to be a bit like rallycross. Hopefully the teams have warned their drivers. We're not going to see if he's understeered wide if we don't pan with them. Here's the second car. And having to back out a bit, and they are doing well to keep, certainly not be flat out. I think they've managed to survive the gravel there, but if you go offline now, it's going to be even worse. Changing both front tyres on that Nissan, because it was the left front that was the problem, and that is obviously the right front that they're changing. Well, anyway, it was a bit of entertainment for a second. Waiting now for the gap between 666 and there is Takai. We were going to wait on the same camera shot and see how long it took, but it was too far with the gap. And so through in third place comes Takai. Now, question is Can this lot just behind catch him by the end of the race? We've got 7 minutes remaining. Uchida's still in fourth, but Suzuki pushing him along. Got more lap traffic to contend with, and Akita there as well. So those guys are pushing hard. Now, YouTube chat is saying that on the onboard of 555, the Lexus hit the 555 car, so that's why they ended up in the gravel. Not sure if we've got which cars we've got available to us, but of course you can watch the 555's onboard stream on YouTube as a separate link. But good spot from our YouTube chat. Thank you very much for your detective skills as we continue to watch this battle for fourth position, and the Mercedes slightly offline there. All three fighting over fourth. It's started to come alive. Now, do they keep fighting hard, or do they focus on Takai and trying to chase down the number 9? That's really what they should be doing. And in karting, you'd see the leading driver pointing to his head and then pointing forwards and going, come on, we're going forwards, we're going to work together here to try and move up through the field. Unfortunately though, as much as Uchida will try that in the car, they will not be seen. Works in single-seaters, but it does not work in GT cars. Here comes Akita. Akita down the inside of Suzuki. No space there. But we do have a nice little battle. It's really the only battle on circuit. And really, they should be focusing on chasing down the number 9 as Akita moves around in the mirrors of Suzuki, and that really didn't work. So the idea there was that if you move around the mirrors, you distract the driver in front, who then starts looking in his mirrors just as he gets to the braking point and misses braking. That's the idea of that. Unfortunately, what happened was Akita then missed his own braking point and ran a little bit wide. So no chance. But yeah, Uchida's defending really hard here. And that's slowing them up. They've only got 6 seconds to Takai. Right, so thank you to Akati Yu on our chat. Here is what you spotted for us. We are thankful in the TV truck for this. So the 555 comes around the outside of the 96. Into the first right-hand hairpin, which gives him the inside line for the left-hand hairpin. He shouldn't really be trying to overtake a car that is 1 lap down, and unfortunately Mr. Miyazawa annihilates the Lexus into the gravel trap. Well done. Thank you very much to Akatsuki Yu for that one. And well done, chat. It's always good when we're working together as a team. Meanwhile, Akita's still trying to find a way past. Has the gap come down to Takai? Not really. So, as I say, they shouldn't be scrapping so much, then they might be able to get themselves on a podium. But it is a great scrap, and Akita trying all kinds of stuff to try and get past. Lexus back into the pit, so maybe far too much dust got into that car. It did change colour, didn't it? Again, if you go offline here, with all that gravel, you can hear the gravel being kicked up underneath Suzuki's car, the 296, as he was offline there. And of course, then that gets picked up on your tyre, and now you have a little bit of understeer, and you can see he's just lost a little bit of ground to the Mercedes. So it's much, much better just to stay on the racing line, especially around those couple of corners where we know the gravel is. Still though, Uchida holds on. Now the gap is 7.5 seconds, so Takai is safe in third. wonder if Banksy... Yeah, Banksy's taken half a second out of our leader on that last lap. So the gap down to 3.7 seconds between Sujiko and Banksy. Poor old Amy is going to have to ask Cozzolino about his mistake in his first stint if they end up winning this one. Something like, you didn't make it easy for yourself, I think is how I would do it in the UK. Now, got to keep an eye out on those last times. Last lap time for Sujiko, 31.8. Banksy, 31.6. So gap down to 3.4 seconds. There is our leader in AM. And at the moment, with that, it would be a championship for the number one. By far the best AMs. They are AMs because they are of an age, not because they are of a speed. You automatically become an AM after a certain age, and I'm not going to say what that certain age is. But they are fast gentleman drivers in the number one, that's for sure. And we've seen that car almost get podiums at times. In the overall championship, Uematsu and Team Machina, best result is 6th position this year. They're 7th right now. .7 the gap now between Banksy and Sujiko. I wonder whether all of that pushing from Cozzolino in the early part of the race might be costing them. The flag is out though, there's no more time. Sujiko has taken the victory. Banksy in 2nd position, the smile says it all on Cozzolino's face. Sujiko has taken the win. We've got a long, long time to wait before Takai comes over the line in 3rd position. All thanks to that success ballast from yesterday, the success penalty costing them the victory, really. And then that fantastic battle for 4th position. Uchida holds on, Suzuki in 5th position, and Akita in 6th. And for the win and the title in GT3 AM, it's Uematsu and Team Machina. There's a smile once again on Suzuki's face. The number one is number one for 2025. And we must have crowned one of our first champions, because it's only August. They do have one more round, one more weekend, 2 races in Suzuka in 2 weekends' time. And in GT4, Manopo took the victory as expected. But I don't think that wraps up the championship for them, if I remember correctly. 42 points the gap to the Sunrise Boulevard, so mathematically they could still take the victory when they reconvene in Suzuka in a couple of weeks. It brings the 45 up to 5th position in the championship, so they are still mathematically in with a shout of winning the championship, as is the top 7 cars going to Suzuka. But there is Shinji Takai, sorry, Yorikatsu Sujiko. your victor in the second race of the weekend. Thanks for the W, guys. Join you again soon in the Japan Cup. Lots of GT4 and GT3 racing today. I should say today around the world, because of course it's just the day starting over in Europe. Here in Japan, it's the end of our race weekend in Okayama. We will be coming back this time next year. It's been confirmed already, the calendar for 2026, Japan Cup and GT World Challenge Asia as a power tour event, with a calendar that looks very similar to this year's calendar. Pretty much identical for Japan Cup, apart from a slightly earlier start next year in Sugo, a couple of weeks earlier. Just waiting to get our camera sorted, and we will head down to Amy, as you can see there. Give us a wave, Amy, we can see you. And the Ponos Racing guys finally with a victory, because they've been second twice, retired all the other races, and now they have the win. It's been a roller coaster every single weekend. They just need a weekend where they get 2 victories, don't they? And maybe that will be Suzuka. Right then, let's go down to Amy, who has our victors.
さあ、岡山のジャパンカップレース2見事制しました45号車ですね。ケイコトリノ選手と辻子選手、辻子頼勝選手、おめでとうございます。もうね、まずはケイ選手なんですけれども、スタート素晴らしいスタートでした。もう本当ロケットっていう感じのスタートでしたけれども、振り返っていかがですか？
まあスタートには勝負かけてて良かったと思うんですけど、ちょっと途中で僕のミスでギャップが帳消しになっちゃって、正直昨日のレースできてないんですよ。で、本当は僕らピット入って今日のレースに向けてねセットアップしたかったんだけど、オフィシャルのミスで僕ら出走できないって言われて、だから今日のレースに全然合わせ込めなかったっていうのが、僕ら正直レース側 SRO に対してかなり不満を今実は持っていて、なのでもうちょっとフェアに競技運営ルールを皆さんオフィシャルの方にも分かってほしいし、僕らは勝ちに来てるんで、もうちょっとみんなに平等にジャッジしてもらえれば、もっと僕らもいいレースできるし、みんなも平等にいいレースができるチャンピオンシップになると思うから、そこだけ僕からチームからお願いしたいと思ってます。
本当にね、どん底からもう天にっていう感じのね週末だったかと思うんですけれども、後味良ければ次鈴鹿もね、期待できるんじゃないでしょうか。
そうですね、まずはちゃんとチャンピオンシップとして、何回か言いますけどちゃんとルールを把握してもらって、僕らは昨日一生懸命トラブルから車を直そうとガレージに入れたのに出走させてくれなかったんですよ。でそれってル・マン24時間ウェイク僕は全部やってきましたけど、そんなモータースポーツってないので、だからそこだけ今後ちゃんとチャンピオンシップとして信頼を取り戻させてもらいたいですね。はい、
でもとりあえず本当優勝ということでね、はい、たくさんお祝いしてください。そして辻子選手、後ろにもねたくさんギャップを伸ばして、帰ってきましたけれども、無事優勝でございます。今のお気持ちをお聞かせください。
ありがとうございます。素直に嬉しいは嬉しいんですけども、K からもあった通り、いろいろとあった週末だったので、まだまだ車は出来上がってない状態で、初めての車で今のレースをしたので、これがずっと勝ち続けるためには多分、きちっとしたレース運営をしていただきたいなと思います。以上です。ありがとうございます。
本当にね、優勝おめでとうございました。To our international fans, let me translate briefly. There was a lot happening this weekend. They were not really happy about how situations were handled yesterday. That was Kei's argument. However, he's very happy that he could win this, and also he's looking forward to better racing in the future. And also, Tsujiko wanted to have more wins in this season, so they will keep their faith and will keep on fighting. Back to you.
There are our champions in GT3 AM. The smiles back on their faces after apprehension at the start of the race. Banksy just 6 points back in the championship now from our leading cars, and number 9. We go back down to Amy, who has our new champions in GT3 AM.
はい、ということで無事アマクラスなんと今シーズンのチャンピオンでございます。おめでとうございます。いやもう本当に上松選手有言実行でしたね。
ありがとうございます。チームメイトの2週間前にチームメイトの岡本さんがね、タイヤマンがちょっとね心不全なくなっちゃったんで、今回ね申しをつけて走ってるんですけど、まあそれはね見てくれてるのかなと思うとね、なんか込み上げてる部分もあるし、みんなにねそれ返せてよかったなと思います。はい、
改めてもう3年連続ということですね。
3回目で。3回目です。はい。
おめでとうございます。本当にたくさんお祝いしてください。そして鈴木選手もね、無事車を持って帰ってきまして、チャンピオンおめでとうございます。
はい、ありがとうございます。いや本当にこのチームに誘っていただいて、なんかこうすごい人生の刺激というか、レースって楽しいっていうのが再認識しました。ありがとうございました。
改めて本当チームね、みんなでたくさんお祝いしちゃってください。おめでとうございました。Let me translate to our international fans. As you see, it is very festive. However, Uematsu told us that a very important member of this team passed away 2 weeks ago. So he's very happy that he can be watching from above. And he gave his heart out to this race to just give the present to this person. Also, Suzuki said this race was just exciting, and he's very, very grateful about this championship because it's just so much fun to be racing here, and they are very, very happy. As you can see, they're going to party hard today. Back to you.
Big smiles for Team Machina. They are really setting the bar, aren't they, in that category? There is nobody that can get anywhere close to touching them. But what do you do next? Might we see Team Machina in the GT World Challenge next year? That would be a big step up for them. But that would be a cool challenge, wouldn't it, as well? They do definitely have the advantage over the rest of the field. And now we wait for... Here are the highlights then from Japan Cup Race 2. An aggressive start from Kei Cozzolino down the inside into turn 1 to take the lead away from Ukyo Sasahara. And it was going to be those two that were going to fight because Yoko Miso in the Maezawa Ferrari had a 2-minute penalty that he had to take, and it would remove him out of the battle for the lead of the race. Cozzolino had held about a 1 second advantage over Sasahara for the majority of his stint, but did make a big error and handed over the lead to the number 9. This was the battle for AM honours, and it took a few corners, but the number 1 finally managing to get past the 81 Nissan, which would mean Championship 1. Here is that error from Cozzolino into the gravel. And with a couple of corners later, a dive down the inside for Sasahara. And he would clear off into the distance, but it wouldn't be enough because of the success penalty that the number 9 had. When the pit stops came, it would have to stay in the pits for 15 seconds longer than the 45 car. So 45 would inherit the lead of the race. Coming out of the pits, the number 9 came out in 3rd position. Keiichi's Lexus in 4th position, then was binned off the circuit and changed colour, as well as a punctured left front tyre, spread gravel all over the track, and it was the Maezawa Racing Ferrari that did the damage. Kaboom! In the end, they would get that Lexus back out onto circuit, dusty or not, but the other Ferrari from Keiichi's was retired. Keeping the pace at the front of the field, Chujiko was never headed And even though Banksy closed the gap down to about 3 seconds by the end of the race, it was the 45 that took its first victory of the year in Japan Cup. Cozzolino Nico with a frustrating weekend, but they can leave Okayama with a smile on their faces and just hope that Suzuka in a couple of weekends' time yields more positivity and points for that championship. Number 9, though, still leads overall. Team Machina and the number 1 clinching the AM title with 2 races to spare, and that was why there was such a smile on Suzuki's face. And so to the podium. Sasahara ending up 3rd position. In the bingo racing by LM Corsa with Takai alongside him. The 7-7 racing Porsche of Banksy on Watarara. In 2nd spot, a very good drive from Taichi in the 2nd half of the race. Oh, and where are our winners? Okay, our winners not coming up onto the podium. But the trophies have been handed out to our drivers. Sujiko and Cozzolino, your winners, but not there to celebrate. The champagne sprays then on the podium for our overall drivers. And it is that number 9 that has the championship lead over the 296. We didn't really get a chance to see much of them because whilst they were in a fight, they weren't really fighting at the head of the field, Corners Racing. They will certainly be hoping for better come Suzuka. Someone getting a very good champagne bath. Let's hope they have a shower before getting back into the car to head home. This is the point standings then. Bingo leading by 4 points over Corners Racing. And then another 2 points to Banksy. So it's incredibly tight between our top 3. 45 of Corners Racing is still in championship contention if it has 2 very strong weekends. We move on to the next of our podiums. And this will be for the AM category. So 3rd in AM. Car 66, the older Ferrari of Toyota and Otta. 2nd position for father and son Oyagi. In the end, just 18 seconds. 488.
Number 1!
Lovely, lovely positivity. And just a moment of reflection for their lost team member. 2 weeks ago is not a long time. There is the Okayama International Circuit Trophy. Nice and tight for the cameras, and then they can cool down. 33 degrees still out there at the very heat of the day right now. Luckily, I think track action is over for the day. Not sure if we've got any more. We had a couple of support races, single-seater Formula 4 Championship, and some kind of mixed jet thing. There's the champagne spraying. The champions are crowned in GT3 AM. Big smiles from Team Machina. They are your champions for 2025 in the AM category. Winners once again. And lots of smiles and joy down in the paddock as well. It's a big points gap of 61 over Ryuichiro Oyagi, who didn't race Fuji with his father. That's why he is up there in second. His father down in fifth. But unfortunately, no real challengers to Uematsu and Suzuki. An issue gone away from the single driver entry. Oyagi did it on his own in Fuji, as I said, but usually we're at a stage now where all the cars have two drivers. Apart from, of course, Tiger Wu, who has been in his GTC Porsche all weekend and is also our GTC champion. Your three GT3, a little change in the order, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was this order in the first of our races, but great to have Murakami Motors with us this weekend. Hiroyuki Murakami driving with Yoshida in their Cayman. And then obviously the Sunrise Boulevard guys running a couple of different GT4 cars. This is the Zenko RS Garage entry. And our ever-present Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia team. They really do need to get themselves a GT3 car. Maybe when Lexus upgrade the GT3 car, they could bring that to GT World Challenge, because of course now we're racing in Indonesia in GT World Challenge. They could be racing at their own circuit rather than having to come to Japan each time and race. The champagne then sprays on the podium for our last race of the weekend. Japan Cup returns in 2 weekends' time as a support race for the Suzuka 1000. They're racing on I think they're qualifying on Friday, racing on Saturday and Sunday, if I remember correctly. And there we go. Congratulations again from the GR Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia guys. They have not quite clinched the championship because, as you can see, Zenko RS Garage with less than 50-point gap. But it's only them that can snatch it away from them in Suzuka. And also, it would require if they are there, a full grid of GT4 cars for them to be non-scoring. I suppose they have to finish to score points, don't they? So that would be the way it could be mixed around. Here is Tiger Wu. Just a single GTC entry for this weekend. We had about 4 or 5 in Fuji, I seem to remember, and I imagine we'll have a more complete GTC grid in Suzuka as well, because there are so many of those cars knocking about, and they are great fun to drive. There is this opportunity to... I'm not quite sure why our graphic has Tiger twice, but yes, I suppose it emphasises the point that he is driver 1 and driver 2, but he is the same guy. He's not an identical twin, or maybe that's the mystery. Maybe that's the whole thing. Do love his race suit though. Do love his race car. Do love his garage. Lots of colour. Here is the highlights once again of the Japan Cup, and Kei Cozzolino cutting across the front of Sasahara to take the lead into turn 1. He wanted to control this race from the moment that he had pole position taken off him in qualifying. The 555 had a penalty of 2 minutes for changing their chassis, so Yokomizo was taken out of the battle, and that car ran at the tail of the field for the rest of the race. Cozzolino pursued by Sasahara, but there was never really any kind of pressure or any challenge from Ukyo Sasahara. Further back in the first part of the race, there was this good battle by Ruichiro Oyagi, trying desperately to hold on to the lead in AM. But Suzuki eventually going around the outside and making that move stick. This was an interesting moment for Kei Cozzolino, running wide in the 45, covering his tyres with gravel. And at the next corner, Sasahara was able to dive down the inside to take the lead of the race, and then he began to extended it to about 4.5 to 5 seconds, because when the pit stops came, the 9 would have to stay in the pits for an extra 15 seconds, and that would surely hand the 45 back the lead of the race. Coming out the pits, the 9 would come out ahead of the Lexus that would then be removed and put in the gravel. We didn't see the trip into the gravel, but the car absolutely covered. And this is how it happened. Mr. Miyazawa, who was a lap down at this point, smacking into the side of the Lexus, and it would have a puncture on the left front. They would change the tyres, but eventually the car retired, probably having swallowed far too much dust. There was no challenging Shishiko, though, at the head of the field. He was flying and kept Banksy at bay in the 666 Porsche to take victory, their first victory in Ponas Racing. Happy days down in the garage. That has been a difficult weekend in general. But Cozzolino and Shishiko were victors in race 2 here in Okayama. In GT3 AM, Team Machina have won the championship with 1 race to spare. See you in Suzuka in 2 weeks' time for the final round of Japan Cup 2025.